We begin this hour in Uvalde, Texas, where today would have been the last day of class for students at Robb Elementary School before their summer break. Instead, it's a crime scene. Police say they are still piecing together the events that unfolded on Tuesday. President Biden is expected to travel to the town located about 80 miles outside of San Antonio on Saturday. There, he and the First Lady will pay their respects to the community and the 19 children and 2 adults who were killed when a gunman opened fire inside a classroom at the elementary school. CBS News has learned that the suspect had 7 fully loaded magazines with more than 200 rounds of ammunition on him. He also had another 15 magazines in his backpack. For perspective, that's roughly double the amount of ammunition that a soldier would need, typically going into battle with. Officials say the suspect entered the school through an unlocked door on the west side of the building. According to Uvalde police, previous reports were incorrect, and the gunman was not confronted by an armed guard prior to entering the building. Authorities say officials were on the scene within 4 minutes. Law enforcement came under fire as the gunman entered an open classroom. CBS News' Jason Allen has more.
On the lawn of Robb Elementary School, rows of crosses mark each of the 21 lives lost. As the Uvalde community mourns, it is also questioning the police response to one of the deadliest school shootings in U.S. history.
They said they rushed in and all that. We didn't see that.
The director of the Texas Department of Public Safety said the 18-year-old shooter was inside the school for 40 minutes to an hour before a tactical team confronted and killed him. By then, 2 teachers and 19 children had been fatally shot, including Javier Cesare's 10-year-old daughter.
I didn't see no preparedness at all. As soon as they heard that gunshot, they should have rushed in.
The siege ended when a U.S. Border Patrol team stormed the barricaded classroom.
The initial officers, they received gunfire. They don't make entry initially because of the gunfire they're receiving.
There is still constant activity here around the school 2 days later. People regularly showing up with flowers and cards, giving them to the patrol officers who are here, wanting to do something to show their concern about what happened.
George Rodriguez clutched a picture of his grandson, Jose Flores. He had waited at the reunification center after the shooting, hoping for good news.
No, Jose, get here and show.
Dropping off flowers at the memorial, Rodriguez reflected on the loss of a happy-go-lucky 10-year-old.
It's happened too many times, and now it happens to us. It has to stop.
For too many in this tight-knit community, what should have been the start of summer vacation is instead the saddest week of their lives. Jason Allen, CBS News in Uvalde, Texas.
Tanya Rivero joins us now from Uvalde, Texas, for more on this. Hey, Tanya, good to see you. So I think this press conference that we saw earlier today had a lot more questions than answers. As the investigation unfolds, we're learning that it took roughly an hour and a half between the first 911 call and the suspect being shot and killed. And the police chief says that law enforcement was there on the scene and inside the building within 4 minutes. So what is being said about that discrepancy there?
Yeah, that's right, Caitlin. The TikTok is still being investigated, but local police did leave us with more questions than answers after this presser. Specifically, local police said that the shooter was engaged with police. There was a bit of a shootout when he entered the school, but at that point, local police fell back. And that's what they're investigating, why local police did not continue to engage that shooter. He says that they then engaged in some sort of negotiations, and they immediately made calls to back up. And then, of course, as we know now, it took about an hour for that backup to arrive, for a special tactical unit to arrive that then entered the barricaded room and killed the shooter. But, of course, parents want to know why. Why did local police not continue to try to engage the shooter? Why did they not try to push past that barricade during that hour? That was not answered. Local police say, though, that is continuing to be investigated.
Yeah, Tanya, that was so striking to me. And of course, as a parent, you wonder what could have been done in that hour. And so many questions about that hour. But what else are we learning from investigators on the ground there? What else are you hearing?
Well, the other thing that we learned today was that the shooter was not at all, he did not encounter a school safety officer, either armed or unarmed. There was no school safety officer, which was earlier a rumor that that had been going around before he entered the school, and he was able to enter the school through an unlocked door. So there are questions about why that door was unlocked. Again, still waiting for answers on that.
And Tanya, here in Washington, there is debate on Capitol Hill over gun legislation, what to do. Is there any sort of debate happening there on the ground about gun regulations in Texas? I mean, last year they passed a bill and the governor signed into law a bill to ease restrictions. Any sort of talk about that at this point on the ground there?
Yeah, absolutely. That debate is being reignited here in Texas. Beto O'Rourke, who, as you know, is challenging Governor Abbott for the gubernatorial seat here in Texas, has sort of emerged as kind of the face of gun regulation. As you know, he interrupted Governor Abbott's presser yesterday, very loudly interrupted him, saying, "This is on you." Here's what O'Rourke had to say about it today as he was here in Uvalde giving blood. Let's listen.
We can continue to do things the same way and expect a different result, but that's the definition of insanity. Or we can decide that we're going to stand up for one another and change this and do everything we can to make sure that not another child is killed in their own school. Not another teacher has to face a gunman with an AR-15, a weapon originally designed for use on a battlefield. To commit ourselves to changing this so this does not become our permanent future or fate.
Again, Beto O'Rourke has sort of emerged as the voice of gun regulation here in Texas. You'll recall after the 2019 El Paso shooting, he came out with some very strong language about a buyback program for AR-15s. He has since walked back that language somewhat, saying that he is the face of common sense gun reform.
And we'll see if movement happens on the Hill and if there's pressure coming from Texas at all. Tanya, behind you, you can see memorials, makeshift memorials, flowers, balloons. It seems like people are coming to, at least honor and pay their respects. How is this community responding? I know you've been seeing people and talking to people, and this seems like such a close-knit community. What's been the response in the wake of this unspeakable tragedy?
Well, Caitlin, I'm going to step aside and let you sort of see for yourself the way this memorial behind me has just ballooned throughout the day. I mean, the steady stream of people bringing flowers, candles, balloons, anything to this makeshift memorial has been incredibly touching to witness. But I also want to tell you a story that I want to preface with saying is very difficult to hear. But I spoke with a woman working at the convenience store down the road where we are all going, to get a Coke in between our breaks. And her daughter is the sibling of a boy who was in the shooting in the school yesterday, in the classroom next to where the shooting took place. And she said that the child's mother had to go in and retrieve her child. Now, her child had fainted out of fear because he was in the classroom next to the shooter's classroom and was out cold when the mother went in to retrieve him. And can you imagine just that bewildering mix of emotions that mother went through when she went to retrieve her child? The overwhelming relief at realizing her child was alive, but the incredible, deep heartbreak she also experienced at having to see all of those children's bodies to retrieve her own child. So I think that is what a lot of this town is going through right now, this incredible mix of toxic emotions that they're trying to come to grips with. And it's still very, very raw and very, very real here, Caitlin.
Tanya, that's so incredibly heartbreaking. And it's a good reminder, too, that so many in this community are going to be feeling the repercussions of this. And just what really struck me was that so many eyewitnesses in this investigation are children themselves who were in that building and what they saw and witnessed and survived to have to tell. is just incredibly heartbreaking. You almost don't have words for it. But Tanya Rivero, thank you so much. I know you've been on the ground there since the beginning, and we appreciate your reporting and your insights and for telling us about this community. We appreciate it.